라이브.
그것도 되나? 지금 라이브 하자고
지금
한다고.
켰어요 방금.
지금 나가고 있는 거야.
음.
야야. 하여 갑자기 이러면 내가
It's okay.
어차피 이거 못 알아듣잖아.
Okay, where is the stream link? Got it here. All right. Let's do this. Okay, hi everyone. In a new chair today, because I am streaming from a slightly different context today. I don't know if you all know, but my dad is visiting in town for for a month or something like that, and let's introduce him first, right? His name is Dr. Kim Sal, and he's my father. He's sort of astounded that I just pressed the go live button right now, but anyway, I'm a life coach. My sister's a life coach. He is actually a professor, and he has been an academic all his life. But at the same time, he is Korea's leading hypnotherapist, and his entire life is basically centered around working with the unconscious mind, and we've been talking a lot about that. And I just wanted to get on stream to talk about some more of the stuff. And okay. To summarize, he gave me some overview about his life, and to summarize it, number one.
Hello everyone. First.
You,
Hello everyone again.
You found out my stream doesn't have as many people as your stream. So
it's my stream.
No, it's mine, but it doesn't have as many people. Hey, Francis. Okay, so you started out as a education major, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got your master's degree in education in Korea.
Right.
And then you decided to come and study in the United States to get your doctoral degree.
Right.
In education and specifically counseling, right?
Right.
Okay, so he did counseling.
Actually, counseling psychology.
Counseling psychology. Mm-hmm. Okay. But as you were counseling people,
psychology major belongs to usually Department of Psychology.
Mm-hmm. Education?
And education.
I see, okay.
So we deal with educational psychology. Educational psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Educational psychology.
Okay.
And when it comes to counseling, we deal with educational counseling.
So it's all related to education.
Right. But if we delve into deeply, psychological department, psychology or counseling, education's counseling is almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
But the setting may be different, setting or field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But now you are doing this, and then as you were counseling people, you noticed that, some people don't really benefit from counseling. Some people don't seem to benefit from the counseling. It seems ineffective for some people.
Right.
And you had this interest in hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point in time, it was just a vague idea. Oh, I guess there's this thing called hypnosis at the time, and you were interested in it. Mm-hmm. And then we went to Canada in 1996.
1996.
And
July coaching.
Mm-hmm. And you experienced this thing called NLP first.
Right.
And when he was studying NLP, the NLP curriculum had hypnosis.
Right.
So my dad was like, oh, this is awesome. I get to learn NLP and hypnosis.
How come NLP is in? No. How come hypnosis is in NLP field? I didn't know that at the time, but I found out it's a very important area, important aspect. Is the hypnosis?
Okay.
Yeah,
So
in NLP.
he took the NLP course, and then, but because it's not like a hypnosis course, it wasn't really like deep into hypnosis. So my dad was like, I feel like, I get that this is sort of hypnosis, but I feel like there's a little bit more. And then he found out later there's like, oh, hypnosis training, and this was like back in the late 90s, right? This is not a time where all of this was like popular. But he found the hypnosis education, and then he was like, okay, I'm gonna go to hypnosis. And then what happened was they taught a little bit of NLP in the hypnosis seminar. So basically, my dad experienced both NLP and hypnosis, and he became like a great practitioner in both of them, right?
Right.
And now, so he started practicing. He started doing therapy sessions. He started doing sessions with people using NLP and hypnosis.
Right.
And then he had this really interesting encounter where someone seemed to be going into their past life.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad remembered during the hypnosis training, somebody was, the instructor for that hypnosis program was like, oh, by the way, some people, when you go into deep hypnosis, their past life will surface up. And my dad at the time was just like, oh, I guess that's a thing. But he wasn't really thinking that deeply about it. But then he experienced it once with like, oh, is this what the instructor meant by past life? And so he decided to look for past life certification, right? Past life training. Is that right? Am I
Right.
summarizing right?
Right.
Okay.
Before forwarding, well, before that,
Mhm.
I'd like to add some more. At that time, I first encountered the past life in a hypnosis session. I thought, what is it? How come we encounter this kind of a past life story in hypnosis session? I thought that past life things belong to Buddhism. I'm not a Buddhist, so I don't believe in hypnosis thing.
Buddhist thing. Because you're not a Buddhist.
No, I'm not a Buddhist.
So you don't believe in Buddhism. You don't believe in Buddhism.
Because I'm not a Buddhist,
Mm.
and I didn't believe, the past life thing. Anyway, past life is a thing of Buddhism. Then why we have to deal the past life story in hypnosis session? That was my question at that time.
Because he thought they were completely separate things. So
Right,
like,
right.
why like past life? All these things supposed to be at the temple or whatever, right? But why am I Why is this past life thing emerging in the hypnosis session? So that's when he remembered.
But I had great curiosity about past life, so I studied.
Yeah.
Later.
So he studied past lives, and then so basically after doing that, he was feeling really good, right? He was starting to see a lot of results from people as he was practicing in Korea with clients, and people had like again, this is like late 90s, so this like blew people's minds, right? Like I walk in and like, oh, I don't know, I want to quit smoking, or like some really like some random ass topic, and then you walk into my dad, and then like you go deep into hypnosis, and you're like, oh my god, in my past life I was like XYZ, and then like they come out and like, whoa, holy fuck, right? So they were having really good results, and so this was really good for the sake of personal development too, right? Because it gets to re-narrate, like rewrite your story about your life. And then one day he encounters something in a past life seminar that he was leading for 2 days, right? It was a 2-day seminar that he was hosting.
Right.
And then the AM or the PM session was done, and then so he was resting in his room, and then somebody came running up into his room and said, "Oh, Dr. Soul, you gotta come up, And then my dad's like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" Right? And then he runs upstairs, and then he sees this group of people congregated around this like one lady, right? And this lady is like standing tall, and she's like just yelling out a bunch of stuff, and everyone's like, "Whoa, what is this?" Right? And then my dad like arrived at the second floor, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, Dr. Soul is here, so he's gonna take care of everything." And then so all eyes are on him, and my dad is like, "Wait, what?" And he's trying to assess the situation, right? And then so he walks up to this lady, and this lady, right, starts shouting that she's Jesus.
Right. She said.
She said,
shouted.
I'm Jesus. I'm Jesus Christ. And then so she commanded that my dad kneel, right? You're
Kneel down.
Yeah, kneel down. You're before the body of you. You're before the Son of the Lord. And then so my dad was trying to like assess the situation because this had never happened before.
You know what? I'm a professor, and those are all my students.
Yeah, grad students basically.
Yeah, graduate students. Anyway, how could I kneel down before them? Wow, what a shame. That's what I thought.
Right, and so like if these things happen inside of a session where we're in hypnosis, and suppose my dad is working with me right now, and then I'm like, "Oh, I'm Jesus," and then my dad would be like, "Okay, so we're deep into the unconscious, but it's under trance right now." But this person was wide awake, right?
It's a different story.
Yeah, it's a completely different story. And so my dad was like, well, he took care of that. This was such a long time ago, he forgot the exact details of how he took care of it. But the point was this, right? He's like, fuck, yet another thing. One more thing that is blowing my mind right now. And so my dad is thinking, right? What is that? And then he started researching this.
Right.
And he found the name of Dr. James Baldwin, who is kind of the prominent figure.
No, William Baldwin.
William Baldwin.
William Baldwin.
William Baldwin, who is basically the authority in spirit releasement therapy.
Right.
Which blew his mind because he thought that all this like spirit thing was an Asian thing, right? And so to see authority in that field living in Florida. So he was like, my dad was like, man, I really want to learn from this guy. And then, but he had a seminar in Florida, right? Okay, but the thing is, our family wasn't really that like well off at the time because the rest of us were living in America, and my dad was only living in Korea, right? And so, for him to justify to my mom that, hey, honey, I'm gonna spend a lot of money, and I'm gonna go to Florida, and not you guys, and I'm gonna learn this one more obscure thing that you probably don't really approve of. And so my dad was like, fuck, I really want to, but I can't right now. So he was, I'll wait for it. And then he noticed a book in his bookshelf.
Right.
And he noticed a book in his bookshelf. I was like, wait, I bought that book years ago in my hypnosis training. And I bought that book in the, sales booth because the name of the book was
Spirit Releasement Therapy. Spirit Releasement Therapy.
So
SRT.
Spirit Releasement
Releasement Therapy.
So, right? So my dad didn't know anything about that, but what he was attracted to was, the title has spirit and therapy. Okay, that sounds cool. I'm gonna buy the book. So he just bought it like that. But guess who wrote that book? It was William Baldwin.
Right, the same name.
So basically, my dad was summoning synchronicity like years ago before he even knew anything about this, right? And then so he studied that book before meeting Dr. Baldwin. And then we were living in Orange County of California. And guess what? My dad's NLP teacher, Tad James, had a seminar in Orange County with Dr. Baldwin. So everything just like the stars just can't align harder, right? So my dad, number one, gets to be with the family. Number two, doesn't have to travel far. Number three, he meets Dr. Baldwin in person.
Uh-huh. And his wife.
And his wife. And so, his wife turned out to be medium.
Medium, right? Medium.
Right? Like, who can communicate with spirits and such.
She's also, a hypnotherapist, and she's actually medium. Maybe I think she's also shaman.
Yeah. But anyway, my dad learns spirit releasement therapy, and then now he's like, you know what? I think I'm good. Like, there's no type of client that can give me a problem now.
Mm-hmm.
So, since then, he's been doing all these different things with the unconscious, right?
Uh-huh.
And so, there's also timeline therapy in NLP.
Right. Timeline therapy.
There's past life therapy, and there's spirit releasement therapy in this life. And also what he found is there's this thing called life between lives. And then so now he, with his expertise, he can be like, you know what? Wouldn't there be like a beginning to all of this? So he created his own way. He created his own type of therapy called the soul mission therapy, right?
Soul mission.
To go back into the past lives, past lives, past lives, past lives, past lives, past lives, all the way to the beginning.
I distinguish two kinds of mission. First is a soul mission. Second is, life mission. Soul mission is the very, very beginning of our soul. I mean, the very first beginning of the whole past lives. The first starting point. That point, the mission of that point, mission of that life is called soul mission. However, when it comes to life mission, that means this life's mission of this life. When we are born, we get a mission life. Life mission to live this life. So, two kinds of missions we have.
Yeah. And so now we're basically caught up, right? Like we have all these different types of ways to work with the unconscious. And now, my dad only practiced in Korea, right? Because his practice is in Korea, but he's looking to, reach out to more global audiences and talk to more, international people to help them with their unconscious, things like that. And I'm, as you all know, as my viewers, I'm a very heavy Buddhism-based type of guy, right? And so we're kind of cross-pollinating right now. My dad is experiencing more Buddhism through me, and I'm experiencing more unconscious work through him. But it's really nice because when he was learning hypnosis, I was his basically guinea pig, right? I was his experiment. So the reason why I'm so good at hypnosis, and by good at hypnosis, what I mean is I'm very good at going to hypnosis. It's because I've been doing it with him since I was such a young age, right? I've been doing it for all my life. So now when I self-hypnotize, I can just go in that deeply. And to be completely honest with you, I think that helps a lot with meditation as well. But now that we're here,
You're here.
yeah. So, I would love for people to see like the some of the hypnosis stuff. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm very hypnotically suggestible, especially because he's my dad. But your mileage may vary. But if you were to hypnotize,
Mm-hmm.
what can we show people? Maybe the arm raise,
It depends.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends. As you might imagine, there are many types of hypnotic techniques, and some techniques apply to some people, other techniques apply to other type of people. There are people of high susceptibility person and not high or low people.
Mm.
So person by person, technique by technique.
But one thing that's common is very important is the ability to relax, right?
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you get hypnosis without relaxation?
Mm, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, we can hypnotize people without relaxation. Yeah, it is possible.
How is it? How does
I'm
that
good
work?
at it. I'm good at it actually.
How does that work?
Huh?
How does that work?
Trance.
Mm.
The answer is a trance. Well, if we go into trance for a short time, then we can be hypnotized.
Mm. And that's what you do for that
Right.
snap technique, right?
Right. Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Francis asking, did you experience a past life? I've experienced so many past lives with my dad. He has
As far as I understand, he experienced his hypnotic experience, hypnosis and past life when you were 11 years old.
Yeah,
maybe,
like I've
maybe
been
10 years
doing
or
it
11.
all-
yeah,
yeah.
elementary school days, and he experienced many past life experiences. Yeah.
he literally wrote a book about my past life regressions. Basically, he has a book in Korean of all the case studies that he had. But so the ones that I remember vividly are number one was when I was a Native American,
Uh-huh.
right? And I was a Native American, and I remember being a child, and I was playing in the streams. I was playing in the river, and then a really big fish went between my legs, and I remember how vividly I was surprised because I was just playing in the river, right? And then, oh my God, a fish! And then so I remember that past life very vividly, and that I think that I remember that was the reason I didn't like fish.
Right.
So my current life, I didn't enjoy like being around fishes, looking at fishes, because that experience from the past, it really like affected me. And the second one I remember was I was a malnourished guy in Europe, and I remember being so hungry in that life. I was a European person, and I was a man, and I didn't have anything to eat, and I was starving and starving, and I remember it being so lonely, and I died because I slipped and then I fell into the river. But because I had no like energy because I was so malnourished, I was just like I remember the water being so cold, and what I remember about this session is I cried so much because how I died was so fucking miserable and tragic. And I remember like this was using more of the traditional trance, right? So I was laying down and I'm like and I was so sad because I was dying, and it's so cold and I'm so hungry with everything, and it was like the worst experience. And that's another one I remember.
It's interesting.
And I'm sure there are more, but I've done past life regressions just like so many times that it's just that it's a little bit yeah, I'm pretty sure if I do a session right now, I'll come across one.
I remember that you had issue of milk at that time.
Oh, milk, yeah.
Milk issue.
Uh-huh.
You didn't like milk.
Yeah, I didn't. I hated drinking milk.
You hate it.
Uh-huh. And that was because in that life where I didn't have anything to eat, like all I had was milk. And I just got so sick of it
Right.
because all I had every day was milk. And so that's why I didn't like milk.
And
But
it's a very interesting experience, you know.
yeah.
Very interesting.
But nowadays, my dad has a YouTube channel in Korean where he has a lot of self-hypnosis scripts to access your past life. But nowadays it's more for entertainment purposes, and it's fine, right? But it's always important to remember my dad's original background is in therapy. So the reason why we did these sessions when I was a kid is because I wanted to solve a problem with me, right? And so, like the milk issue, right? And why I feel so like terrified of fishes. And oh, I remember like I in that Native Indian life, not Native Indian, in that Native American life, I I died because of a spider bite, of a venomous spider. So that's why I was so like deathly afraid of bugs and spiders and such. So that's gotta remember that, yeah, while these are definitely possible to do for entertainment purposes, my dad's always had a educational and therapeutic background. And moreover, like I don't really talk about this stuff in my channel, right? Because I'm based on my practice, and my overall philosophy in approaching change work is based in Buddhism. But you have to understand that it doesn't, what my dad does, it doesn't really conflict with what I'm doing, because these are representations of what the mind produces, right? And that's an important thing to kind of notice here. Okay, what's it like to be under hypnosis? So there's, again, it's like there's two flavors to this. When you're doing the traditional hypnosis where you recline on a chair, it's really heavy and you're just so relaxed. And so the traditional like chair hypnosis is just like, we're gonna relax, and the tone of voice changes, right? And you're gonna count down from 10 to 1, and every time you count, you feel more relaxed. And then at 10, you relax your eyelid, and at 9, you relax your voice. And so it's a progression of relaxation. And so it's just
progressive relaxation.
yeah, and then so once you're in the unconscious realm and you're super like in it, then it's like a really heavy sleeping kind of a thing, but it's so comfortable. And then now, because you're so comfortable, all the energy, all the images inside of your unconscious, they just start to spring out. But now the second thing, right? Stage trance, like that snap trance, is slightly different. So I wanted him to show you guys an example, but he decided to hug the dog, so we can't do it right now. But basically it's this. My dad has you focus on this one thing, right? And then so all my focus is on this one thing, all my focus is on, and then he suddenly snaps it away. And then in that window of time where that focus is here on something, but it's removed, he replaces it with him. And then so the momentary like snap of trance, it gets transferred to him. So that's how it feels. And then after that, you kind of just follow that because you're already so in it. You're already in trance. So you don't need to go down the progressive layers of relaxation, because the end destination is the trance, right? So for that snap one, you already are in it. So that's the... Can you speak more about the soul mission regression? How does it work?
Soul mission?
Mm-hmm.
Soul mission regression?
Mm-hmm.
In hypnosis, we can will go to the first point, the first time, or the first beginning time when our original soul started. That's the point. The first, how can I say? The very first point when our mission, our life, our soul began.
So when I did it, and your experience may vary, But when I did it, there was this like I was this little white blob of something, right? And then I I sensed that there was a creator, right? I didn't see him. I didn't There was no presence of him that I could find. But that little blob that had just been born, like it innately knew that some like grand thing had created it. And so my dad asked, if you remember from a few years ago when you did the soul mission with me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have no memory. I don't remember.
so my dad was like, okay, so like why were you born? And then, do you remember? And I'm like, no, but I think there's someone I can ask. And so my dad was like, okay, can you ask? And then I'm like, so I asked that like being, right? And then I remember this, the supreme being that generated me, when I asked why was I born, it just shrugged. And it was just very indifferent, right? So I remember being really disappointed about it. I'm like, wait, what? Like, you made me, but you don't have anything for me? And then so I remember being really spiteful. And I was like, you know what then? Do you even care about me? I'm just gonna do anything. Do you even care? And even then, the being was like... So I was like, what the fuck? And then I woke up and then I talked to my dad. I was like, Dad, what the fuck was that? And my dad was like, but I mean, it's just what you got. So you'll find out. And then a few years later, it all makes sense, right? It's basically all aligned with the teachings of Buddhism that I talk to you guys on a daily basis, right? Parents don't have children because of expectations. If you do, that's just a way for you to get disappointed. There's no point in life. There's nothing that you have to do. So you have to enjoy the things that you have to do. So it's all like basically foreshadowing of my life, right? So that's why I was like, holy fucking shit! So, that was my experience. But basically, when you're under hypnosis, like, you don't necessarily follow the rules of real life. So you can, when you really ask yourself, like, what was I in the past life? Then you don't like, oh, it's not like, oh, what I had today for breakfast. It's not like that. It comes up from here. It bubbles up. And then you do that for the past life, and when the soul mission is all about when you got started. What was it like when you got started? You know, your whole being, not just this incarnation of it. Francis is asking, do you only see deaths in your past lives? And I always thought it was therapeutic thing. What are the other types of hypnosis? So, can you see your future death? I think you do that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
sure,
quite
sure.
often, right?
Yeah, sure. It's the same rationale. I mean, when we can go to our past life or past itself, then we also can go to the future. Say on the same timeline. There's a present and the past and the future. So if we can go to past, we also can go to the future. Yeah, so we can have a future life session.
And you can see the death too. I remember seeing like my death in the future.
Why we see death in the past life session is because we can get an idea of our mission or karma for next lives. When we face the death, then we look around me and delve into oneself and think, how was my life in this life, and if I be born again in the next life, then what kind of life do I have to live? So those questions might be related with one's own karma or, uh, or how can I say karma or maybe related with next life's ambition. So the experience of death is very important in past life station.
Yep. Hey, Corporal Hitman, my dad doesn't live with me. He's visiting. He just came today. And the other types of hypnosis is like stage hypnosis that you'd see in Las Vegas and things like that. And therapeutic is like when you want to, when you have like active things that are bothering you, when you have more or less like problems, right? Therapeutic seems to kind of basically heal those. But for like active living with not like physically but like goal setting with intentions, right? Living a more intentional life, trying to quit smoking, trying to be more motivated to do things, and those are like basically motivational hypnosis, right? And then you can use hypnosis as a tool for that too. And like I mentioned before, meditation and self reflection is also like a very good usage of hypnosis. So you can see your future life, which means predicting the future is real.
What can I say is absolutely real. It may be predicting, but it may be not real. But the important thing is that the perception of the future. How can we perceive the future? It is it comes from uh, my own unconscious mind.
So suppose I think my future is grim unconsciously, right? Basically, my heart thinks my life is fucked and I'm doomed. Then every choice I make, every encounter I have, every interaction I engage in with other people, it's always gonna bleed off of that unconscious belief that my life is fucked, it's doomed, right? So why the future life visibility is important is, especially in the unconscious realm, you can think about your future, right? But especially in the unconscious realm, why visualizing, why experiencing your future is so important is it causes an unconscious shift about how you view this idea of your future. And so instead of thinking my future is just undefined, who knows? My future, I don't know what's gonna happen. Instead of that, you start having this concrete idea of about what your future is, and when that lives in your unconscious, every decision you make, every action you take is gonna be influenced by that in your unconscious mind. So that's why it's important. It's not for the sake of like fortune telling, and like it's not for the sake of stock prices, right? It's less about that. It's more about changing the relationship that you have with you and your future. Can you only see through your eyes like it was a first person view, and do you know how you're gonna die? Is that a life is that life a future life that is not your death currently? So when you're under trance, of course, because you're used to looking at the world with the 3D world, it will, when you're doing hypnosis first, you will most likely experience your unconscious mind in the 3D first. But the more you engage in the unconscious and the more experience you have with editing your unconscious mind, the more those rules start to break. The more you can experience the sound of color, the more you can experience the feeling of a emotion, the more you can experience the temperature of a sound, right? Those things, like bending the 3D world, becomes more and more possible the more you practice it inside of your unconscious mind, because again, it doesn't follow 3D rules. And so at first you're gonna see it through first person view. At first you might see it in third person view, but it's more or less gonna obey the real world rules. But the more you do it, it's gonna be different. And how are you gonna die? Again, it's a question you ask your heart, not your brain. when you're in the unconscious, you ask, like, it'll surface up a death for you, right? Like a situational death. And when you don't doubt it, when you're like, nah, but that can't be real, or like, oh no, that's unrealistic, what the fuck? If you're doing that, there's no point in doing hypnosis. Just go do something else, right?
Absolutely.
So the point of hypnosis is trusting yourself. This is what I am trying to offer to myself if I could only fucking listen to it. And when you trust that this is how you are going to die, that's when it becomes so real, right? You're gonna cry like there's no tomorrow. If like you're gonna have so many regrets of like, oh my fucking god, I didn't do anything with my life. Or like, if it's experiencing a future life, right? Then it's like, why am I sad? I'm so profoundly sad, but why is this? And then you get to realize, oh, in this future life, this was so important. And so now you can reflect that on your own life, like in the present, in the 3D world, right? Hi, Denise. Yeah, so like, can you see your future death from your next life, or you see your death from this life? Yeah, those are all things that you can offer to your unconscious, and the thing that you have to do is trust that your unconscious is feeding, given this question, given this prompt, your unconscious is feeding you this information for a reason. You follow that intelligence, you follow that wisdom. So if you know what your past being looks like, you can get someone to draw them. Yeah, and you know what? There are people who are mediums, right? Basically, there are people... Suppose my dad can't get hypnotized, right? He's like, oh man, but I really want to experience hypnosis. But I can't, right? Then, occasionally, what my dad used to do in his practice before was, there was a medium who could kind of connect to this person's psyche and experience trance on behalf of this person. So, again, if he is like, what the fuck is that? That's bullshit. Then, again, there's no point in doing it. Go do something else. It's all about the unconscious communication and the trust relationship that you have with your unconscious, and understanding that there's wisdom there. And if you're a medium who's particularly strong in the visual realm, then totally, yeah, you can draw them. Okay. So, Michelle, this question is for me, but you mentioned before that there technically isn't a point in life. We merely just need to experience it. So wouldn't visualization become a form of control of how you'd want your future to turn out? Yeah, right? So now, this is how it doesn't really conflict with what I'm saying. So, there is no inherent point of life for everyone, right? There's no global ideal that we need to strive for. We don't need to attain like the spiritual perfection so that we can get to nirvana. Like of course I want you to attain nirvana and awakening because I don't want you to suffer from a Buddhism perspective. But you don't need to, right? You can live a perfectly happy life even without the attainment. You don't need to be bowing like me. You don't need to be meditating like me to experience a happy life, right? But I'm doing it because I want to, right? So there's no global point. So what this work is really helping you do is it forms that strong bond with yourself. So you know that Billy, if you've seen my YouTube channel, you know Billy is full of conviction about himself, right? Because why? Billy's heart is aligned with his brain. Because why? Billy, through his way of practice, through his prayer, through his meditation, through his bowing, he understood how to move his heart. What he is saying is, you can use hypnosis and the unconscious and directly interfacing with it to move it. You can communicate with it. So Billy is using more of that, using more cooperation with the cognitive brain to align the heart and the head. What my dad is saying is, you can achieve the same thing in a different way, called directly interfacing with the unconscious through hypnosis, through symbolic things like past life regressions. through symbolic things like soul missions, through all these things that your unconscious provides you, and the more aligned you are with that, and like, so like, you know, like it's all, that's why in the end it's all so important. It's belief, right? Not belief in God, not belief in a supreme creator. Belief in you, belief in what you feel here is real, and the most important thing. Even if my dad doesn't want me to practice Buddhism, I will. Because why? I believe in me more than my dad. Sorry, Dad. So fate is real. So there's no fixed fate. How you conduct your life, how you view your unconscious self, how your unconscious self views you and the world gets to influence what you do. So in a grand sense, it is a form of fate, right? It's not a black or white thing. It's more nuanced. There's more complexity involved in it. So I don't want you to feel powerless against it. It's more like, don't feel powerless. Feel like you can communicate with yourself to determine what your fate is. Think about what your fate is. 밖으로? Okay. Alright. I think that's enough live for now because we got some housework to do and walking the dogs to do. So we'll be back more frequently in future streams. Can you tell us how you die, or does it ruin the mystique? Like, we'll answer that. Try asking it next time, and then we'll be able to answer that for you. Alright, well, everyone, thanks for chiming in, and I just wanted to kind of like share some background stuff because, you know, it's interesting stuff. Alright, see you next time. Bye. I don't know if my dad will be here next time,
Bye.
but I don't know if he'll be participating. He'll be with me, but anyway, goodbye. Or I don't know. I'll just stay here for you. You can go.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah. Again, I just thought it was super interesting. We were having a long discussion about it, and then I was like, wow, I gotta talk about this with people, or at least have a record of it on YouTube, so that we can talk more about it. 산책 갈 거예요? 응? 끝내도 되고 아니면 산책 갈까? Okay. Alright, well, I guess I'm gonna go for a walk with my dad to walk my dogs after their dinner time. So I'll be back next time. See ya!